Welcome to the Health Coach Nation podcast. My name is Hailey Rowe, and I'm a sales and marketing coach and LinkedIn lead generation service provider. I work with health, life, and mindset coaches and online service-based business owners to help them get more sales, shift their time to the client-generating activities instead of just the busy work, and overcome that social media overwhelm. Let's get into the show. If you're ready to take on your next paying clients, I have good news. My free 4 Basics of Client Attraction and How to Stand Out class is live at haileyrowe.com/client-attraction. In the class, you're going to learn the top 2 traits I recommend for most coaches and entrepreneurs if they really want to turn this into a career. You're going to learn how you can build demand for your services and stop getting crickets on your posts. You're going to learn the sales roadmap I used to improve my sales conversion rate and help my clients do the same. And you're going to learn so much more. So go to haileyrowe.com/client-attraction and get your copy of the class today. Today, I have a very special guest, Yuri. He's going to share with you his journey in the wellness entrepreneur world. And Yuri, I knew about you from podcasts years ago, and you're still in the game. You are crushing it in business. So share with everybody how you got into what you do today, what you used to do as well as a wellness entrepreneur, and we'll go from there.
Great. Well, thanks for having me, Hailey. I'm excited to share what I can with your audience here. So my journey really started when I was 16, 17. I lost all of my hair to an autoimmune condition called alopecia. So that's why I don't have any hair. But at the same time, I was very dedicated to a passion of mine, which was playing pro soccer. So I was on a hell-bent mission to play pro soccer from the age of 10. And I didn't realize that although I was fit, I wasn't healthy. So when I lost all my hair when I was 17, it was a really big eye-opener to be like, hold on, what's going on? And that really put me on this path of wanting to figure that out. So over the next few years after that, I eventually went into study kinesiology because I was just, fundamentally interested in the human body and wanting to get a little bit more insight into maybe what was going on with my health. And then I had the opportunity to play pro soccer. So I did that for a number of years. I came back, I retired at basically just almost 25. And then I came back and studied holistic nutrition, which was really the big eye opener for me, where I started to recognize hold on, what I ate or what I've been eating could be part of why I lost my hair. And that started to change everything for me. I was able to make some really big improvements in my health, and I regrew my hair, although I lost it again several years later after getting a shot, which was another story. But I knew that if I didn't know this stuff, there's got to be billions of people who didn't either. So I wanted to share with a lot of people. And I was working as a trainer and nutritionist at the time. And as I was kind of finishing up my schooling, I started going full-time into that. But I got burnt out after doing that for a long time. So 12 to 14 hours a day, one-on-one, overworked, underpaid, the typical health professional story. And in 2005, I was like, well, I don't really want to keep doing this. I want to help more people, and I want a better quality of life. So I thought that coming online and living the laptop lifestyle was the secret. And lo and behold, it was a lot harder than I thought. I thought I could write an ebook and kick up my feet. Doesn't happen like that. So I spent the first 3 years of my online business making little to nothing. So my first year online, I made $6,000, and I was working a couple hours a day. I was still working in person with clients, and I was starting to, moonlight this dream that I had. But it wasn't really going anywhere because I had no idea what I was doing. And it was a very general approach. I know you talked about this as well, really niching down and specializing was something that I did not want to do. And I was like, I want to help everyone. And I struggled big time because of that. So it took me about 3.5 years to get out of my own way. And in 2010, I hired my first coach. I'm like, I don't have all the answers. I should probably get some support. And then from that point forward, everything started to take off. And that business, which was to the general public, weight loss, energy, different facets of health improvement, went on to do very big things. We helped 500,000 people to better health, wrote a New York Times bestselling book. I was on Dr. Oz, all that kind of stuff. And then I eventually sold the business for probably 2016, I sold the business for multiple seven figures by that point. And I just was tired of talking about health and nutrition. And a lot of other people in our space were asking me for business advice at that point, because now they had seen like the growth that we had had. And I was like, like I really enjoy business. I really enjoy talking about it. And if I could help other health professionals help more people, then collectively we can help everyone or more people. My vision has always been to help 1 billion people. I don't know why 1 billion, but I don't know. I like big numbers. So I figured if I could help others, we could all win. And that's where Healthpreneur, which is my current company, was born. And so we help health professionals build scalable coaching businesses that transform more lives. And I love what we do, right? Because I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. I think there's a lot of like overnight gurus who had a good month, now they're business coaching. I think it's disgusting, to be honest. And you know, when you've been around for a long time, like there's a lot of benefit that comes with that. And I'm here to like, you know, put the good word in, put the good word out, because unfortunately, as you know, there's just a lot of skepticism and a lot of people don't know where to turn nowadays. And, you know, we've got a big goal of helping a lot of people. So that's kind of how the genesis of all this started. And it's just great to be able to help others who are helping others.
I love that. And yeah, there's a lot of similarities in the journey that you had and what I relate to, because I had an interest in health and wellness and personal development, and fitness and health was my gateway into personal development and entrepreneurship and just being interested in that kind of stuff. And I ended up working in the business development and marketing world for wellness startups. And the misinformation out there of people thinking, oh, it's just easy, it's laptop lifestyle, it's passive income, all that stuff is so not true. I was so burnt out working at those startups and was being told, and maybe we can talk about this too on your journey. You know, I was getting tasks fresh out of college. I was an entrepreneurship major, but nothing really prepares you for startup world and entrepreneurship. And they were giving me these projects I didn't feel qualified to do, and you just had to figure it out, which was good in a sense, but at the same time, it was very stressful. And in 2017, I decided, I want to go off on my own and be an entrepreneur. But the truth is, it's not a laptop lifestyle. It is something you have to be committed to and have a big mission, which is why I love that you say you want to help, 1 million people, and you have to be in it for the right reasons. And I fell for the same thing, though, of like, I wrote a 300-page ebook that I thought everybody would want. And then I was like, no, this is so silly. Nobody wants this. Get some market research, and then niching down and having your message evolve over time. And I think there's so many points you brought up that just really resonate. So I want to ask you a little bit, let's back up. So you had this health and wellness brand that you grew and you eventually sold. And it was a little bit general, meaning you didn't maybe niche down super specifically. So tell us a little bit about how did you what was one way you got your message out there as a general health brand that really worked for you?
Just brute force. It was just volume and time. Like I had no clue what I was doing, but I just did a lot of stuff. And I think the one thing I did well, which I still really enjoy doing, is shooting video. So although I had no strategy, I was just like, let me just shoot a bunch of videos and put them up on YouTube. My first video, I think, was 2007 on YouTube. And at the time I was working as the strength and conditioning coach at the University of Toronto. So I just started filming some of our like warm-ups, and that's kind of how it started. And then I just started shooting workouts, individual exercises, and the video quality was terrible. It's like if Atari could be in video format, that's what it would have looked like. But I just said, you know what? I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just going to, hopefully this will help someone somewhere. And that's kind of how it started. And it took us 7 years to make our first $1 million. And we grew that, like the YouTube channel was a significant part of our business. And we grew it to about 300,000 people. And it was awesome, because when people see your stuff on YouTube, they consume a lot, and the more people pay attention to you, the more they're willing to pay you for whatever it is, if it's a product or service, because there's that inherent trust. So it was a lot of like, that was probably the one thing that we did well. But we had done at one point we had set up 6 different blogs each with a very specific focus, like interval training, intermittent fasting, and the different kind of core pillars of the stuff we talked about. And then we had just very surface level content that was being posted on those on a daily basis. And then we were linking to them. It was just like this convoluted nonsense. And then eventually when Google made their Panda updates and like all that went to, dust, it's like you start to really learn. There's no like shortcuts. But that first business was largely built on content. And then eventually we got into paid traffic, which eventually, once I figured that out, was very good for us. But, for the most part, like I love teaching and I love sharing content. And that was just how that business started. But the thing is, like, even to this day, like I really do think content is the name of the game. Like it's the most, nothing can replace it in terms of building a brand that builds trust. It just takes forever. Right. So as I said, like it took me 7 years to make my first $1 million with that process. When I started Healthpreneur, it took us 7 weeks because we didn't use content or social media for the first 3 years of this business. We understood how to use paid ads, and that's how we drove our initial client acquisition. And then literally 2 years ago, that's when we said, all right, maybe we have a bit more bandwidth now to add content into the mix. And I told the team, I'm like, I don't care, like our YouTube channel, I don't care what comes from it for the next 5 years. I'm just going to put out what I think is good content, and I'm going to create it for myself. I'm not going to play the algorithm game. I'm not going to jump on these like Mr. Beast trends of doing these ridiculous challenges. I'm going to create content that I think is useful based on the clients I work with on a daily basis, and eventually it's going to catch steam. But I'm like, if nothing happens, it's okay, because we don't rely on the content to build our business.
Right.
And I think that's one of the challenges a lot of people run into is they rely on social media, they rely on content to fuel their business initially, which is fine, but it's challenging. It's really challenging because you have very little leverage. And if your content doesn't get seen by anyone, you're not in business very long.
Right. I completely agree. So it sounds like you did a lot of search engine optimization, a lot of content marketing in your wellness business originally. And I think that content, as you said, it builds brand, it builds trust, it nurtures, but it's not the direct thing related to getting clients. And it's something that you have to have eyeballs on it. And if you're just posting and hoping people see it, you're out of luck. And there's so much you cannot control with the algorithms always changing, which is why one thing I'm passionate about is like timeless sales and marketing strategies. You can apply to content, you can apply to SEO, you can apply to these things. But at the end of the day, the algorithms are always going to be changing. And that's why one of the things that you talk about is like some shifts with social media to be aware of. So tell me a little bit about some shifts you are seeing in social media that we should know in 2024 if we want to be able to get clients, grow our brand, et cetera.
So, I mean, I'll start off by saying I'm not like the Instagram or social media expert. Like I'm never one of those like guys who are like, okay, guys, here's what's happening with the algorithm. I like to look at things from a higher level perspective. And when I look at shifts on social, what I mean is really kind of like shifting in how we show up for our audience. So as an example, I think one of the things that we really have to look at with social media is understanding, number one, the algorithm is simply the audience. So whenever you're thinking about like the algorithm's working against me, just reframe that to the audience doesn't care what I'm putting out there. Like that's what it comes down to. Like if you create content that people resonate with and they like and they share and all that stuff, you don't have an algorithm issue, because the algorithm is built to favor content that people like, because if people like your stuff, they're going to stay on social, which means you're going to be shown more ads, which is what these platforms want. So I think the first thing is to recognize, like, you want to be creating content not for the algorithm, but for your audience. And if you play this like trying to sneak around the algorithm game, you will always be behind the 8 ball and you're never going to win. So that would be kind of the first thing. The second thing I would suggest from my experience, and this is something I talk a lot about with my clients. We just had our mastermind in Miami the other week. And I said, every single one of you in this room has one thing that you do better than most people, is you speak your truth, and you're very magnetic because of that. not everyone, a lot of people are looking for the templates, the fill in the blank, whatever. And that's maybe a decent place to start to like just get momentum. And I think all of us have to go through this journey where we're not really sure what our truth is, or maybe we're scared of sharing it because of backlash and what people might say. But the most successful clients that I've worked with over the years, and why I think that our content is successful, even though our engagement is not great, if I'm being very honest with you, but we've generated a huge amount of business from a relatively small following on Instagram. It's because I'm very clear about what I speak about. It's our clients are also very clear about their perspective. They don't hold back. If they have a very specific opinion on something, they state it, they share it, they yell it from the rooftops. And I don't think most people can do that on day zero, because we're so programmed to worry about what other people think about us, right? It's like, well, if I say this, am I going to get hate in the comments? And a lot of people just get held, they're almost paralyzed from producing because they're worried about what other people will think. Like, as an example, so in my first business, when I had lost my hair and then I regrew it, then I lost it again. And by that point, I had built a pretty sizable business as a health expert. And like my eyebrows were falling out again and all this kind of stuff was going on. And so I spent 2 years using my wife's makeup to paint on fake eyebrows, right? So like, if you see some of my old YouTube videos, like from video to video, like I literally have different eyebrows. It looks like a clown. It's crazy. And at the time, I'm like, I didn't even think about it, but I was wearing like this mask, this veil of shame. And the scariest moment, to be honest, of my life was the day I decided I'm no longer painting on these eyebrows anymore, and I'm going to actually shoot a video. Like, I called it my coming out. And it was like me in front of the camera. Like, there was no live stream. It could have just stayed on my camera. But it was probably the most nervous I've ever felt, because I was afraid of what people were going to think of me when I shared this. And I think like most people have maybe gone through something similar. Like I actually experienced the complete opposite, where I had this like outpour of praise and love and thanking me for doing so, because I started to realize like it gave them permission to be themselves and speak their truth as well. So although I had been speaking my truth to a certain extent for a number of years, I actually was lying to myself and to everyone for many years because I was afraid of what people would think about me. Meanwhile, they're probably even questioning, like, what's up with your eyebrows in the first place? So, I mean, I've been through that. We all go through that. But I can share, like, when I look at the people that I've worked with who have not necessarily like millions of followers, but engaged, loyal fans, it's because they connect with who they are. Like, it's this ability to connect with your audience because you share not just like how-to content, which is like vanilla ice cream, but you can go deeper and really connect with people. And I think that's really, really important. And I don't think whatever happens in 2024, 2025, if there's another social media platform that comes out, it's going to come down to that, right? It's going to come down to our ability to connect, not just create content. And when I think of social media, it's like it's media, which is the content, and the social side. Like if you just have one or the other, I don't think it works as well. You have to have both together. So those are two shifts. I don't even know if they're shifts, to be honest. I just think they're mindsets.
Yeah.
So I'll just kind of like stop there for a second, and we can explore it further if we want to.
No, I love that. So I agree. I think that not being afraid of being polarizing is a big step in your business, but it's an important one because it's going to help the people who do align with you to really align with you. And I think that I think it's easy to look at somebody like you who's grown a business, sold a business, et cetera, and think, oh, like he's just a natural, or he, likes being on camera or whatever. But you had to learn that too. And you had things that you were battling with your confidence and, as you said, with the eyebrows, and we all do. I remember my first Facebook Live, my voice was so shaky and I was so red right here that I wanted to delete it as soon as I was done, and I might have. So I want to go back a little bit, and I do want to know the third shift, if there is a third shift. Is there a third shift? You want to talk about that?
There's probably more than three, but I'll share. So okay. In the way I see this I think the third shift really is about, from a business perspective, is conversions come from conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing, and I'll just be really honest, like I have let our social media go by the wayside a little bit the last couple months, because we brought some team members on to kind of take some of the stuff off my plate. And I just wanted to see how they would kind of run this show for a little bit. And I'm not, like, as of this interview, I'm not super happy with the direction it's gone. So we're obviously course correcting as we go, and it's evolved over time. But with that said, we have been very, very conscious of building conversations from content. What I mean by that is, when people follow us on Instagram, we engage with them in conversations in the DM right away. Because I look at, okay, what's the purpose of Instagram for us? So if someone comes in and manages, the content side of things, they're like, well, what KPI am I responsible for? I'm like, I don't care, to be honest. There's no KPI that's meaningful, because let's look at engagement. Let's say that engagement is the most important KPI. If we're chasing engagement, and so I would say, like, maybe this is part of the shift conversation as well, is really understanding what is the outcome, what's the objective of what you're trying to do. So when I say conversations that lead to conversions, for us is more important than engagement percentage. Okay. So I'll often, and I'm sure you get this too, like a lot of message requests. Your engagement is critically low. Let us help you, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I know it's critically low, but I don't care, because if I were to optimize for engagement, I'm going to start gaming the system in ways that I don't feel are in integrity with our brand and philosophy. I understand that some of the stuff we put out is not going to have as much engagement, but the most important thing for me, and this is the one thing I've shared with our team, is if you are managing our content and, executing this stuff, the most important thing for me is that our message is on brand. That's it. Because when I think of this, and I think of someone on their phone, and they come across one of our posts, and then they go back to our feed, and then they start consuming all of our content, I want them to have a really good understanding of our whole philosophy, regardless of the engagement on those posts. Because what we see is when people follow us or they engage with us in the DMs, they're like, man, I love your stuff. When I hear stuff like that, I'm not looking at it from an ego perspective. It's confirmation that the message we're putting into our market is on point. And that's really important for us, because we know that we're not chasing comments and shares as the primary objective, although those are obviously important in terms of impressions and reach. We're looking at, when we speak with a new follower, like, are they a health professional? Are they a coach? Are they someone who's in our world that we can serve? That's a good thing, because if they follow our page, it means something on our page tells them this is the page to follow. And then when we have a conversation with them, we start to recognize that they've either seen our stuff on Instagram, they really like it, or they've watched our stuff on YouTube. And these are all really good leading indicators that what we're putting out into the world is resonating with the right people. And that's important to us, because at the end of the day, I'm not chasing followers, because I can't pay my team with followers, right? We pay our team with profits and dollars. And so we have to be able to turn, as brute as this sounds, like, we have to be able to turn followers into paying clients. And so for us, that comes from being able to have meaningful human conversations, not AI bots, that help people understand this could be a good fit for them. And if it's not, we can direct them in the right place. But really helping, navigate people through this very confusing world where they're being promoted all sorts of stuff. Everyone's reaching out to them saying, I can help you. And it's really about establishing trust. It's really, really important in today's day and age where there's a huge amount of skepticism. Like, content is not going to lead to cash in bank, right? It's got to go content, which earns the right to have the conversation, and the conversation builds trust. And then from trust, we can talk about, the next step. So I'd say that's an important shift, is really looking at conversations as being a very important piece of the marketing mix. Because I see a lot of people are like, yeah, just, I'm building on some courses. I want to make some passive income. I'm like, please stop. It's not happening. Like, you've got 100 followers on Instagram. No one's seeing your website. No one's going to a checkout page and dropping $500. It's not going to happen. Please stop. Do not pass go.
Yeah.
maybe 15 years ago, right? But not unless you're the world's best copywriter. It's just not happening. So I think those for me are kind of like the top 3 shifts / mindsets that have been helpful for us, at least.
Amen. I totally agree with you on that. And in today's world, as you said, there's more buyer hesitancy. And so being able to have authentic, real conversations and skip through the bro marketing, or people are just going to come, or they're just going to see my content. I like the idea of using content. I agree with you that, like, as a way to have a conversation with somebody and expand on it. So now I kind of want to shift gears, though, because you mentioned earlier in your wellness business, it was a lot of brute force.
Yep.
And you also had a slightly general niche, but now you're a fan of niching down. So tell me a little bit about what's your stance on niching for wellness professionals and why? And then I'll ask you about the brute force part, but let's start there.
Well, my question is, like, if you want to help more people and make money, like, it's not going to happen as a generalist. It's really like, and you might say, okay, Yuri, well, look at Dr. Oz, look at Dr. X. I mean, Dr. X is a buddy of mine. There's definitely examples of that, but I also know their journey. If you think of Dr. Oz as an example, so he started as a generalist, right? So he went to medical school, became a medical doctor. Then he became a specialist, cardiac surgeon, and still no one knows who he is. He's just doing his stuff. And then he had a connection to Oprah Winfrey. So then I think his wife and Oprah were close, and that's how he got on the show. So then he became this like trusted authority on the Oprah Winfrey show every now and again. So now he becomes this authority. And then he has his own show 5 days a week, several years running, and now he becomes a celebrity. So all of us, I call this kind of like the pyramid of influence. So we can kind of climb that pyramid, if you will. So in Dr. Oz's case, he started off as a generalist, and he almost ended up as being another generalist at the top, right? Like he became a little bit of like America's doctor. But it's very hard to do that without being the best in class. Like, he was a great cardiac surgeon, which, in some degree may have earned him the right based on, his connections. But for us mere mortals, the reality is this. If you're like, the way I think of this is like, Hailey, what's your favorite food?
Oh man. It's hard on the spot. I love grapes and fruit, fruit stuff.
Let me rephrase the question. What's your favorite type of cuisine? So like if you went to a restaurant.
Sushi.
Sushi. All right. So if you wanted the best sushi, are you going to go to like a buffet, or are you going to go to like an amazing Japanese restaurant?
Amazing Japanese restaurant.
Yeah. Right. Like, I don't know about you, but I'd never type into Google third best sushi place in Toronto. It's like, I'm looking for best sushi Toronto, like best sushi Chicago. We are all wanting the best solution. Like, no one wants a mediocre option. Like, if you have a leak in your roof, you don't call your general contractor. Typically, you'll call a roofer. If you have an electrical issue, you talk to an electrician. Yet for some reason, and then maybe it's just a lack of being aware of this conversation, is like, when we have a business, we feel that just because we can help everyone, it doesn't mean we should, right? Because there's 2 big problems that happen when you do not niche down. Number one is your messaging is diluted. It has to be diluted, because by picking a side or a specific focus, you alienate everyone else. So if you're not willing to niche down, you're like, well, I can't because I'm going to alienate everyone else. Well, were you really going to help everyone in the first place? No. Second is on delivery. Unless you enjoy working one-on-one until you're dead, you can't scale delivery, because if every one of your clients is a special snowflake because each of them has a unique condition, even though you can help all of them, you can never escape that rat race. So if you work with 30 clients and you've got a client who has eczema, one has acne, one has gut issues, one has, weight loss desires, although their underlying protocol might be very similar, you essentially have a one-on-one coaching business for the rest of your life. So if that's what you want, cool, stay general, right? And that's where what happens with a lot of health professionals, especially in a clinical setting, is they become successful in spite of themselves. So they set up a clinic, or they work in one, people walk down the street, they happen to walk in, and there we go. So you have people fall into your lap, even though your marketing is non-existent. You're a naturopath. Cool. Boom. Just people fall into the clinic, and then you have some referrals and word of mouth, and like you think you've got a great business. But when you come online, it's like you get punched in the face, because number one, no one walks past your virtual clinic, i.e. your website, because no one even knows it exists. Then if they do, or even see you on social media, if you do not clearly articulate how you help them in 3 seconds or less, they're gone. And I see this is the biggest problem in our space, and I think for business in general, is thinking that one thing is the problem without any recognition that it's the least significant thing. So for instance, I really got to get my website built, and the tech is really kind of holding me up. That's what a lot of people think is their biggest challenge. I'm like, cool, but actually that's not the biggest challenge, because if you're focused on the technology and completely unaware of the psychology of your market, you've already lost. And it's the blind spot is the biggest danger. It's that you don't know what you don't know, and that's why you can't grow. So when we niche down, it solves a lot of these problems, because now your messaging can be to one specific avatar, right? I help runners over 40, get rid of Achilles issues or whatever it is. All of a sudden, people landing in your world are like, hold on, that's what I have. This could be my person. And now they feel like you are speaking to them. So now you don't even have to differentiate. You've differentiated just based on the fact that you've selected a single target market. On the delivery side, if all of your clients have the same issue, then you can create leverage, because you can build a curriculum that everyone follows. So everyone's on the same train, they're all on the same track, they're moving to the same destination. And that's really important, because in a service-based business, the biggest bottleneck will always be on the delivery side. If you enrolled 100 clients tomorrow, if you can't service them, you can't scale your business. And a lot of times in our industry, because of the nature of like a one-on-one and everyone's a bit of a different snowflake, you actually don't even want to market and sell, because you're moving yourself into pain. More clients, more time, more pain. I'm not going to do that. So a lot of this is alleviated by niching down. And if we don't niche down, it's you become a commodity, and that's not a winning proposition.
Right, because then you get compared to, if let's say I'm a massage therapist or I'm a health coach. I'm just a health coach. You're comparing me to all the other health coaches, and what's the standard health coaching dollars per hour rate? And I'm going to go with the cheapest, or because you're all doing the same thing. You're all just a health coach, right?
Totally.
And I agree with you that we don't know the full story for people who are generalists. Like Tony Robbins was originally doing smoking hypnotherapy before he expanded to being Tony Robbins. And do you want to compete with Tony Robbins? No.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like a losing battle, right? So I think you bring up a really good point there. And if you are somebody listening to this show and you want to get clear on your 3 seconds or less pitch and how, criteria for choosing your niche, I do have a free niche marketing training at haileyrowe.com. But I want to shift a little bit, Yuri. Thank you for answering that so thoroughly with so many good examples, because I think people just think, it's fine and whatever. But and what to consider, like if you're okay with just having foot traffic right now, doing one-on-one, you like that, you're not looking to scale or anything, you could be more general and it could work out, especially locally, but now I want to talk about hustle. So you said that originally in your wellness business, it was a lot of pure volume, pure time, brute force. So tell us about that hustle life, and how did you get out of that, or maybe some things you'd want to advise people on if they're feeling like they're facing that right now?
I think, especially in the past, I'd say 10 years, there's been a lot more of this hustle's good type of dialogue. Like, it's okay to hustle. It's good for you. It's like a badge of honor. And listen, like I work harder now, to be honest, than I did when I was a burnt out personal trainer. But the difference is that for me, it doesn't feel like work, right? Because I'm working from a place of choice versus way back in the day, it was like I had to kind of feed myself. When I came online, I had no direction. So I was going in every direction. And so I was very, very busy without being productive. And this is what I see a lot of people struggle with, is like, I'm really busy and I'm like, cool, like, what are you doing? Like, if you are not where you want to be and you're really busy, you're just doing the wrong stuff. And that's fine, but you have to understand that you don't have the answers, because if you did, you'd already be where you want to be, but you're not, which means you don't have the answers. Most health professionals are pretty smart. Like, they went to school, they spent a lot of time and money to get guidance. And then when they go out and build their business, especially online, they think they're going to do it for free. I'm like, how does that even make sense? But I was also that guy for 3 years, so I get it. It's not going to happen. Like, the very fact that if you're busy and you're grinding away, it means you just don't know what you're doing a lot of times. Or you have a business model that is heavily reliant on manual effort, right? So for instance, if your business model, and what I mean by business model is like, if you should ideally be able to draw on a piece of paper what your business model looks like. How do you attract clients, or sorry, how do you attract leads? How do you convert them into clients? How do you deliver results? If you can't draw that out, I would argue you probably don't have much of a business. You probably have a job. So if we don't know, so for instance, within a given business model, let's say that like content or social media in today's day and age is the main business model. All right, so what does that look like? I'm going to post content twice a day on every platform I can think of: TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, everything. Okay, cool. So if I'm the one doing all that, I'm going to be working a lot. There's going to be a lot of grind in that, quote unquote. So you pair that type of business model with the fact that content in general just takes a very long time. And it's one of the biggest frustrations people come to us with. It's like, I just am not seeing what I want to see from that type of effort. I'm like, number one, I'm like, well, you're posting once a week. So we're not talking about twice a day for the first part. So the grind, I think, is looking at, there is a time to work hard, 100%. But if you're going to work hard, my take is work hard on building leverage. What I mean by that is, when I look at scale comes down to leverage times learning. So if you think of learning as skills, all of us have to build skills to kind of climb the mountain of business, and those skills evolve as the business grows. But if you have no leverage, you will never have time back in your life. So leverage can come in a couple different ways. Number one, we have systems. Number two, we have people. Number three is capital. And number four is content. So if we look at content as an example, if you post a video on YouTube and that video gets a lot of views, that's an amazing piece of leverage, because you shot it once and it's done. And now it's going to bring in a lot of traffic for you. The trade-off there is you don't know if that video is going to do well from the get-go. So you just have to get good and, trial and error over time. So content has its place. But if you look at systems for me are where it all starts. Like, a business in my mind, is a collection of systems that produce a profit for the owner, independent of the owner's input. So if you own a McDonald's, you have a collection of systems. You're not the person flipping the burgers and doing the fries. Like, you get the output. In any given business, there are systems that can attract leads, systems to convert clients, systems to deliver results. And some of those systems can be automated. Some of those systems can involve people, which is the third point of leverage. So if you do everything yourself and nothing is systemized, you will work very, very hard. Or you could be on your own for a bit, build the system, and then hire a few people to work the system, so you buy back more of your time. And now you get to work on things that you enjoy doing more of, like podcasting or whatever else you want to do. Meanwhile, you have this business that's working on your behalf. When I was, before COVID, when I did a bit more speaking, like in person, I remember going to speak at the Nutritional Therapy Association in Portland at their event. And I'm like, it was a great event, but I'm like, honestly, I could have stayed home with my kids and had the same outcome, because we had a system in our business that, even while I was traveling, was working to help people and bring them into our world. And I didn't have to speak on stage. Meanwhile, some of the people I met at the event who were speaking on stage, that was the only way they made money, was if I don't speak on stage, I have no way of bringing clients in. And they're playing the circuit, right? They're just bouncing from one event, one conference to the next. You don't have a lot of leverage because let's say you get sick. Let's say you get hit by a bus. Your business is toast. So there's a time, like, yes, there's a time to work hard, but I'm always looking at, am I working hard on building assets, i.e. systems, things that are going to work for me when this is done? Or am I just working hard for the sake of not even being mindful of it? So that, I think the difference now compared to like when I had my business way back in the day.
Amazing. Yeah. I so many good things, juiciness in there. And there was something I wanted to mention. You said with leverage, you could get a lot of use out of one video. And one rule I like to think about is if you have one input, could you get 3 outputs at least out of it? And that could be sometimes be a good decision-making criteria. If you're like, which thing should I prioritize? Well, which thing could you get maybe 3 things out of instead of just, doing a one-off, as you said, like speaking at that conference, you do it, but then you have to go to the next event versus if you make it a video, as you said, you get a lot more use out of it. So Yuri, this has been super awesome. Thank you for coming today. I want to have you share where everybody can find you. Before I do that, if you are watching this live on LinkedIn before February 20th, you are invited to come to my free class on February 20th, where we're going to be talking about how you can remove the hidden sales blockers, blocking clients. Some of them have to do with social media. As we talked about today, some of these shifts that are happening. And that's at haileyrowe.com/5 steps, the number 5. Yuri, how can everybody check you out, be in touch on social media, all the good things?
2 best places. If you want to check out, we've got hundreds of videos on YouTube. So I hold nothing back. I give everything away for free. Our channel is at Healthpreneur. And then if you want to connect on social, I'm most active on Instagram. So I'm at Healthpreneur on Instagram as well. And if you come by the page, just drop me a DM, say, hey, I saw you on Hailey's show, loved it, or didn't like it. Either way, just say hi.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to this podcast. And if it's really helpful for you, I'd really appreciate if you share it and or leave a written podcast review. This tells the podcast sites that our show is useful and it will be promoted to more people that way. Thanks again.